All right. Hey there, y'all. Welcome. Today, my guest is Joy Melton. Joy, can you tell the folks a little bit about your background, your credentials, so they know that you know stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Joy Melton, as Lisa said, and I have been working more than 20 years as a clinical and school psychologist, mostly in the school system, doing some stuff in a private clinic right now with adults and kids. So that's the majority of my background. I do have a lot of experience in the wellness industry. I'm also a registered yoga teacher, a brain health coach with Dr. Amen Clinics. Well, not with his clinics, but through his training. So I am one of his certified brain health coaches, professionals, as well as an integrative nutrition health coach. And then there's lots of other stuff too, but I think that's the gist of it.
Fantastic. And the reason I wanted to have Joy on, we met for just a networking lunch to get to know each other. And she told this really great story. Apparently, in your brain, you have a porcupine and a turtle. And depending upon who is steering the ship, that can have a lot of impact on how we experience life. And so I thought it was just a really good way to explain this. So, can you tell everybody a little bit about how our brains work and where the turtle and the porcupine come in?
Yeah, so there's a couple different theories about the stress response, and that's what we're talking about today with the turtle and the porcupine. So when Lisa and I met, I was telling her this story about a lesson that I use with a lot of kids that I work with, but I also use it with adults too, because it's very simplified, helps people kind of understand the stress response process. It's totally way more complicated than I'm breaking it down today, but I think this is a good little synopsis. In the lesson, we talk about the different parts of the brain with the kids. So there's the prefrontal cortex, which is right behind your forehead. And then we talk about the amygdala. And the prefrontal cortex is dubbed the thoughtful turtle. And the amygdala is called the protective porcupine. So those are two of the key players that are involved in a stress response. Again, there's more brain parts involved, but just for simplification. So the prefrontal cortex, or your thoughtful turtle, is responsible for helping us stay calm, stay rational, make good decisions, stop and think before we act. It helps us get along well with other people and make good decisions. And then the amygdala is kind of what they used to call it amygdala hijacking. So when we have that stress response, it's a response that gets sent out automatically to the body. So we think of this as a protective porcupine, and he's in there scanning for any signs of danger to help try to keep us safe. Of course, years ago, when our ancestors were around and there was saber-toothed tigers, that was very, very important. These days, stress is kind of everywhere. So that part of the brain, the amygdala and the porcupine, gets super sensitive sometimes. So he detects danger when there's not really real danger. It's not life-threatening danger. It's just the way that we're living our lives and the different types of stressors that we have. So what I like about this lesson and what was good for the kids, a lot of times with the kids and with adults, we have a reaction to something. We may be overstressed and have a reaction. And then we often judge ourselves for that reaction. And they're always like, oh, why did I do that? Or for parents even, why did my kid behave this way? Or in interactions with other adults, if we're, having a disagreement and one acts and you're like, where did that come from? So this kind of helps explain that. So when we do have a stress response, or our body detects that there's a stressor, which sets off that stress response in our body, whether it's a real threat or not, then the protective porcupine kicks in. He sends out alerts to the body.
It's spiky.
Danger, danger, yes, danger, danger, danger. And he goes into protection mode. And so when that happens, the turtle goes into his shell because he's expecting that there's a danger. So he's not accessible for us to make good decisions, stop and think before we act, get along well with others, or be 100%, or respond in the most appropriate way that we know how. So when he's taken over and he's doing that, the thing I like about that is that it gives us a little bit of grace and understanding that we weren't able to completely access the prefrontal cortex to make the best decisions that we could, because our thoughtful turtle took those signs of danger and he decided to hide to protect himself. So it helps a lot with kids understanding that and them not feeling so bad or feeling guilty for a certain way they responded. Not that that gives adults or kids a free pass, for the way that we behave, but it helps us understand a little more that we weren't in, I won't say full control, like there is some control, but what I work on with the kids and adults is that we have to recognize the signs of when the porcupine's in charge. And obviously we mostly know when the turtle's in charge. And so when the porcupine's in charge, then what does that feel like in our bodies? And then how do we shift? What coping skills or regulatory, regulating activities can we do to help shift from the porcupine back into the turtle? So I realized this would work with adults really well because I was at work one day after I've been doing this with kids for months and noticed that I was like being really, really hard on myself because it was just one of those days and I had a lot of stress and I was doing a lot of things and I was really busy. And as I was doing it, I just caught myself beating myself up. And then like one of the strategies that I use with the kids is when we're talking about it, we're practicing, when this happens, you're in your protective porcupine and you need to stop, take a break, take a deep breath and say, I'm in my protective porcupine brain. I need a break. And so in that moment, I caught myself doing that little script to myself and then just started laughing. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it works for adults too. So that's when I started using it with adults because it helped me completely just laugh it off. I was like, okay, Joy, you need to cut yourself a little slack today. You're a lot of stress. It's okay. We can do this. And then it shifted everything. I got up, made some tea, chamomile tea, and took a walk and, did what I needed to do some breathing and some stretching, came back, and I was good to go. So I really love that. And then one of the things that has been really impactful was I've used it with some teenagers that then would talk to me about, maybe an altercation or some kind of disagreement with their parents. And then I could say, well, how's mom's stress level right now? And they would say, oh my gosh, I didn't think about mom. She gets stressed like me? It's like, yeah, she gets stressed just like you. And so they've used the lesson as a segue to talk to their parents about stress and how they've been learning to manage stress. And so it actually helped the relationship and it helped her see mom as human and not my mom who just lost her crap and went off on me or whatever that day. So it's really helping in that perspective. And then the same way, parents being able to look at the kid and thinking, oh, little so-and-so, he's a little overwhelmed today. So let's, and it just kind of helps everybody get on that even playing field, that we're all kind of going through similar things, even though we don't think about kids going through stress like we do for adults because their lifestyles are different, but they still experience it. It's just with their kids' stuff, problems, it's stress. So yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good way to explain it. And like you said, right, especially as adults, we're responsible for our behavior. The idea is not to use this to like gaslight your spouse into allowing you to like just be a jerk with no repercussions, no consequences. But it's to help us understand ourselves. I talk to so many clients that are like, I don't know why I did that. What's wrong with me? Like, well, what's wrong with you is you have a human brain that is working as designed. And, everybody does this to some degree. So to give ourselves a little grace and then also to recognize it in the other person that like, oh, my husband's in porcupine mode right now.
Yep.
While I don't like him speaking to me that way, and this will be addressed, it might not be the best time to address it now, right? Because that's what we tend to do. We tend to, right? Somebody gets snarly, we get snarly back to defend ourselves, which is totally understandable and also can escalate. So kind of noticing like, oh, this actually happened with me and my husband this weekend. We've actually, I don't want to jinx it, but I think we're going to get our taxes done early this year.
Oh, yay.
I know, big accomplishment. And he started asking me some questions and immediately I got snarly because it's like, how the hell am I supposed to know where that number came from that was last year's number that we're comparing to this year's number, right? Immediately I get defensive when, A, it's a reasonable question for him to ask. And B, it's reasonable for me to not know. I'm not the accountant. I didn't prepare this. I did give him all the information, but I don't have it all like last year's data memorized. I don't know if you really want to know. let's go dig out the numbers. Let's see what we submitted last year. We can have a call with the accountant. But he wasn't that interested, right? But it was just interested. I saw myself and I kind of caught it. I was like, sorry, I'm getting snarly and like I just need to kind of step away. Cause again, I don't love that we're doing taxes, but it was a reasonable question to ask. It's just I immediately felt defensive because I don't know. I don't know why it says that number from 2022 is there. Like, I guess, yeah, 2022, because it's 2023 taxes.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of good to know, like, oh, because I think what's not great and what we have been kind of culturally trained to do is to shame ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that does not help at all.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I didn't prepare you for this question, but while we're talking about it, do you have any thoughts on? I think the reason we go to shame internally is because that's kind of how we were raised, is like, you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't do that. So we
Mm-hmm.
do it to ourselves. But everything I've read said that's actually not super effective. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with that. It's not super effective. I think one of the ways that this kind of segues is one of the things I think that we're really lacking, which can help with that shame, is the self-compassion piece. We
Yeah.
have compassion for other people, but we are the hardest on ourselves. We cut
Yeah.
other people way more slack than we
Mm,
do for ourselves, and we're just like everybody else. So that has always been one of the biggest things for me to get used to, because I was a perfectionist and liked everything to be perfect, and did that judging for many, many years. And I work with a lot of clients on that too, and kids, is just being able to have that self-compassion for yourself, and see yourselves as a younger self, or a kid. Like, how would you talk to your kid, or how would you talk to your sister if they were in the same situation that you're in, or experiencing the same thing? Like, would you still talk to them the way that you talk to yourself?
yeah.
So that is a big one, I think, especially for the shame and the guilt and all of those things, because we do take that on and we judge ourselves horribly for different things that we've done in the past or continue to do, when I really believe the majority of the time we were doing the best we could in the situation that we were in.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, it is what it is. This is where we are. It doesn't really help to go back and judge any of that or look at it from the past perspective. Can't be changed, and there's nothing we can do, other than that guilt and shame, which is not productive or helpful and
Yeah.
effective. So
Yeah.
just kind of being with, okay, it happened, not proud of it, but this is why. And then what can I do, moving forward, kind of thing. And then, like I said, just having that grace with ourselves and being, having that compassion for, we're human, we're going to have these reactions, we're going to deal with stress, we're going to overreact, we're going to lose our crap, we're going to, all of that stuff is part of it for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And that the guilt and the shame feels so terrible. And I
Mm-hmm.
would say it would be worth it if it were effective, but it feels terrible and it doesn't work. So maybe we can try to do it
Yeah,
a little less.
a little less
So,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. And then
fantastic.
that just kind of keeps us in that worry fear loop too. With, I try to, work on being mindful, and I work with a lot of people on trying to be mindful and in the moment. And if we're doing that, we're not working on, so it's kind of counterproductive. So if we're working on
Mm,
self-compassion and the mindfulness and staying present, then that kind of helps work on that piece too.
yeah, makes perfect sense. So, all
Yeah.
right, fantastic. Well, if people want to get more information about you, the services they offer, what do you do? How can they find you? I know if they're in the Treasure Coast, you're local, but you're online as well, right? Can you tell us about
Yes.
that?
Yeah, yes. So the website is resilientsoulwellness.com. For those that are local, we are located at 735 Commerce Center Drive, Suite C in Sebastian. And then you're always welcome to call our phone number, which is 772-228-8235. Like I said, you can find us online. We have a website at resilientsoulwellness.com. We offer lots of different services. We have some, again, for in-person. I have massage therapists that work here, cranial sacral therapy. We have yoga. We have sound bath healings. And then I also have beamer therapy here, which is a PMF, pulse electro magnetic field therapy. And then for the coaching, I do that either in person or online. And again, I work with all ages. I have a client as young as 5, and I have one as old as 90. So a lot of the things that we do is focused on specifically on the stress piece. How do we manage it better? How do we offset the consequences of that, just because stress is so rampant and is linked to about 90% of doctors' visits are stress-related
Wow.
symptoms, and about 60% of health conditions, chronic health conditions, have been linked to stress. So that's one of the reasons that we focus on the stress. So again, I can do, remote, I can do in person, and then we're going to have some group stuff that's going on online and in person as well.
So
So
you have a whole team of porcupine trainers.
I do,
It's okay,
yes,
porcupine, go to sleep. Come
yes.
on out, turtle.
Yeah, it's safe. Come on out. You're good. We
Exactly.
got you. Yeah.
Exactly. And if
Yeah.
y'all are interested in learning more about me, the work I do with clients, I specialize in helping women over 40. And really, my focus is on weight loss, emotional eating. So you can check out my website, lisaduke.net. And today's episode is specifically sponsored by my book. Yay.
Yay.
It's an easy read. It's not very thick. How to Get What You Most Desire, the ACE methodology, and just kind of goes into my philosophy of how I work with clients, my kind of approach to helping them. ACE stands for awareness, clearing, and energy. So helping clients see what's getting in the way of them hitting their goals, clearing those obstacles out of the way, and then energy, which we could translate for the left brain logical analytical people as attitude. And for the woo woo people, we get more into some of the hippie stuff. So it's a balance for everybody. So check that out on Amazon and check Joy and I out on our websites. And thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.